You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Nayak, a show to help professional moms in survival mode to take hold of their lives and thrive. If you're ready to take powerful action to create your best life, then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Dr. Prianca Nayak, board-certified internal medicine physician and certified life coach. Now let's get to it and dive in. You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, episode number 55. Hi, thank you so much for tuning in today. It is the summer, and unfortunately, where I live on the East Coast, there is yet another air quality warning. So it has really given me pause and makes me grateful for when I do have clean air. I think I may have talked about this on last week's episode as well, but anyway, that's what's going on over here. And I'm about to enjoy time with my children this upcoming holiday weekend. If you're listening to this podcast, you are probably, like me, a high achieving type A mom. You're maybe exhausted, struggling with exhaustion and burnout. I was there too. And what I found, which you might relate to, is checking all of the boxes for success, arriving at success, and yet finding myself unhappy. But you don't have to feel this way anymore. Imagine a life with no more burnout, more confidence, more peace of mind. And I know this is possible for you because it has been for me and my clients. With a little bit of work, in 90 days or less, you can be out of burnout and enjoying your life again. Check out my free on-demand masterclass, 4 Steps to Overcoming Burnout, Get Rid of Overwhelm, and finally get your peace of mind back. The link is in the show notes. Today, I'm going to talk about something that comes up a lot. Working moms in high-power careers are dying for that elusive work-life balance. What exactly is work-life balance, right? I'm not even sure if I 100% know what that is because I don't know that we can totally achieve a 50-50, but I think the concept is to give enough at work and at home. But the more important question here to ask is, does your career, does your work align with your life's purpose? Do you love your job? And how important is it really to you beyond your income? Because at this phase of the game, when you are probably approaching middle age, maybe you're in your 30s or 40s, and you're in the middle of your career, and I know work seems so important, and it's just easy to get stuck and caught up in the day-to-day grind. But if you can really zoom out and see life in a larger way and on a larger trajectory, for example, reflecting on everything that you've achieved so far and what do you want to achieve from here on out, not just in your job, but also in your life. And this actually relates to a couple episodes ago where I talk about your dreams, but really, what are those dreams, right? And when your life is towards the end, and hopefully that is when you're an elderly lady, right? But none of us knows when we will pass away. But at the end, what do you think you will reflect upon? What's really going to matter? And when I think about that, what comes to my mind is quality time with my children, quality time with my family and friends, and the impact that I make with my work. So if you can think of what this would be for you, list your top 3 priorities in the context of what truly matters. And ask yourself, what will matter when you die? Now, this is grim, right? This got kind of dark, kind of fast, but it is a really streamlined, quick way to figure out what is important to you. So though I do spend a lot of time working, I make sure that my time with my children is priority. Like I make my time with them count. So my number one priority for me is my children right now. And I know that's a priority that I will never regret. So instead of splitting your time to have more balance, I think that's how people try and get the balance. They want to spend similar amounts of time and energy at work and at home. And I don't know that that's completely practical. So another way to solve for this would be prioritizing your values, prioritizing what you want your life to look like, and then taking action accordingly. So when I tell you list your top priorities, really think about the values of your life and how you want your life to, what legacy are you leaving? What reflection do you want to have of yourself when it's all said and done? So, as I said, for me, the most important thing, the number one is my children, and of course, connection with my friends and family and the impact I have with my work. So, getting back to your children, because I know that that's a priority for most mothers. If you want more time with your kids, instead of obsessing over how much actual time you're spending with them, make the time that you spend with them count. So focus on putting your phone away, let's say, when you're with your children. Create small one on one times with each child. For example, I will take my son out to lunch or to dinner, just the two of us, maybe once a month or every other month. And make the small mundane moments like waking up or going to bed, the bedtime, make them count. Have rituals. Kids love rituals. That's something that they're going to remember when they're older. And that is something that we can use as a connection point with them. So, really focusing on quality and connection instead of quantity and having your mind, on work or your to do list. It's just not as high quality. I'm going to give you some more ways to feel work-life balance. So, in terms of getting more balance at work, you can do the following. You can say no to projects. And this was a really hard one for me to learn. The first few years of my job, especially before I became a mother, I was just a yes person. I would say yes to everything. Yes to seeing extra patients, yes to going to unpaid meetings, yes to phone calls, yes to all of it. And I wanted to prove my worth and show my value. Now, after having a child, my time became so much more precious. So I had to make a conscious effort to really preserve it and to have my boundaries, because I knew at the end of the day that as much as, and I love my job and I love the practice that I work in, but when I die, I'm not going to reflect upon the interactions I had there. Okay. So that just puts into perspective how important attending a meeting at my own expense or time with my children is. Like, what is the real impact of that? Like, what am I gaining in the end? So learning to say no and knowing that that's okay, regardless of the feedback that you might get. Also, asking for what you want at work. This is a really big one because I think a lot of us have limiting beliefs about what we can get at our jobs. And what I have found with many of my clients is that they will want something different at their work and then they'll say, "Oh, I'll never get that." And of course, that thought doesn't that's not going to be helpful, right? If you think you can't get something. So I had a client named Tina who's a dermatologist, and she basically wanted to cut back her clinical work and do more research. And she was afraid to talk to her boss. And we figured out exactly what she wanted. And when she went to her boss and asked for this, she literally got exactly what she asked for. It was that simple. But so often we just sit there and we take on jobs or positions or projects that we're not into, they don't behoove our lifestyle. They're not in alignment with what we want to do. And it's a choice and we don't have to do that. And we get to ask for what we want and then we get it. And one of my other clients, Nidhi, she's a physician as well. And she wanted to cut back. I believe she worked 0.75 or zero point 0.8 and she wanted to cut back to 0.6. And through many emails and conversations, she is getting exactly that. But it was all because she entertained the possibility. She tapped into her own power. She owned her own voice. She spoke up. She was consistent with it. She didn't give up and she got it. I give you these examples because I want you to know that you too can have what you want in your work, but you have to figure out exactly what that is and then ask for it. Now, in terms of having more balance at home, It's really important to evaluate what chores, what things you enjoy doing at home and do more of that, and what you don't enjoy. For example, I don't enjoy cleaning the bathroom. So I have a weekly cleaning lady who comes to my house. So you can outsource the things that you don't like doing. And you can take help when someone offers to do it. I think one of the traps of being a perfectionist, high achieving mother is that many of us think that, oh, if I don't do the job, it's not going to get done right. With that thought and attitude, you might end up taking a lot more extra work on and find yourself exhausted. So, really work on letting go, not being a perfectionist, and letting other people help you, especially when they're offering. This is something I've learned to do, even though it makes me uncomfortable. And I find myself much more at peace, energized, and feeling balanced. And ask yourself how important the stuff on the to do list really is, and how important are the chores like laundry or whatever else, because we put way too much pressure on these mundane tasks. We take our lives way too seriously. Literally, we will live for what, 90 to 100 years if you're lucky, and then we're dead, and no one, like, whatever impact we have, whatever legacy is there, it's going to live on in our children and then their children. But we expend a ton of energy on nonsense that doesn't matter, like obsessing over chores or a grocery list or whatever, right? So, learning to not spend a ton of time and energy on these matters is really key in cultivating inner peace and balance. Something else I know that we strive for, right, is in balance at home is having more time with our partners and our children. So, in terms of partnership, your husband or wife or partner, you could schedule weekly date nights, let's say, and have a weekly sitter. Or if you have an au pair or nanny, ask them to work extra hours, right? But schedule it, or it could be every other week, whatever. But as long as you have some prioritization on your calendar where it's already there and you have that connection time with your partner, phone free, then there you go on that. That's perfect, right? And those are the moments that actually count, that hand holding at dinner or celebrating each other or connecting or communicating. And time with kids, it's really important that we put our phones away and we connect with them in the mundane moments, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. And also, one thing I found really helpful is to practice activities with them that I enjoy also. So it might be going out to eat. I love doing that. Or I like baking. So I will bake with my son. And that way it doesn't feel like a chore for me, because I'm not really into the Play-Doh and the coloring. That's just not my wheelhouse. I like to, I'm a life coach, so I like to talk about gratitude practice and I like to wax philosophical. And sometimes I try and teach my 5-year-old son compassion and kindness and emotional intelligence. And that's really where I shine. But of course, that's not fun for a child, right? So I try to come up with ways that I also might have fun. And then we're both having fun and we're both connecting. So really think about what you enjoy doing. I feel like everyone likes hiking with COVID, after COVID. So maybe that's something you want to do family hikes, but you get to enjoy your life too while you connect with your kids. And that also cultivates a sense of balance. Now I'm going to address cultivating balance in any given moment. And hopefully this is not totally out of left field, or what I'm saying doesn't sound totally impossible to you, but we actually have the power to cultivate peace, joy, balance, centeredness at any given moment. You might be thinking, what? What is she talking about? But it is possible, and I'm going to give you a few tips to do this. One way is to practice mindfulness and to really center yourself with deep breaths. And I have figured this out through many years of mindfulness meditation. But what I've carried away from meditating is the ability to center myself when And whenever I want, really, when I might feel exasperated or stressed or my brain is spinning out on something. So what you do is you literally can just close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes if you're in public, but standing or sitting, and you take 2 to 3 or 4 long, deep breaths. You inhale to a count of 6 or 7, and then you exhale for a count of 8. And if you do this, it really activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest, our more calm part of our nervous system. It deactivates the fight or flight, and you can truly feel that calmness and peace and balance. So really try that the next time you find yourself really craving peace of mind and balance. Simply try this breathing exercise. Another way to cultivate balance is to work out, take a walk outside, get some fresh air, and it really doesn't have to be long. So you could do it for like 5 to 10 minutes or 5 minutes if that's all you have. And that in and of itself will boost your endorphins and have you feeling better. Also assess what balance means for you, because it's really different for everyone. And maybe make a list of things like what's important, your priorities, how you want to spend your time, and start planning out, being really intentional about that. So then you can use your own power. You can make your choices. You can empower yourself to create more balance for yourself, but you have to figure out what that is. And really, I would challenge you, if you're starting this as a project to cultivate more balance, is to reflect weekly. Let's say every Friday afternoon or every Friday evening after work, take 10 minutes to really assess what your priorities were, what they are, where are you in terms of that? Like, are you spending enough quality time with your children, et cetera? And if you're not, make plans on how to do it differently or do it better for the following week. And this is so key in creating balance, because when we're not intentional with how we are living our lives and spending our time and our energy, that is when we feel exhausted and burned out. But when you can truly be intentional with what you do, that is the best way to feel inner peace and balance. And lastly, this is really important, but practicing boundaries, which I discuss in episode 22 of this podcast, that is a sure shot way to truly protect your time and your energy and cultivate more balance. So the power of no, which I've talked about a lot and I discussed in this week's episode, especially in the context of taking on more projects at work, or maybe if you're overextended yourself and somebody's asking you for help, maybe that's not the best time to offer it up or give of yourself when you're already running on low or empty. So that's not to say that we shouldn't be kind or considerate people, but often we really need to be intentional with how we're spending our time. And if we don't have anything to give from, don't be giving even more, if that makes sense. So we overgive, right? And that can be okay at times, but just making sure that we're intentional about not doing that 24/7 and really remembering it's okay to care for ourselves and to look out for ourselves. And that in turn gives us more energy for those we truly care about. So try any of these tips that I've mentioned today on cultivating work-life balance. I know it will help you. And if you really want to get started on putting in the work to heal yourself from the inside out and end exhaustion and burnout, love your life again, because you truly deserve that, book a call with me, Prianca Nayak, mdcoaching.as.me, to get started. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Nayak. If you are ready to get unstuck and out of survival mode to live your best life, I want to invite you to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. To get started, visit priyankanayakmdcoaching.as.me. Link in the show notes.